おはようございます。So I just thought of something this morning and want to do a quick sharing video. uh, yeah, so I was just thinking about how people tend to have trouble loving themselves. And yeah, I came up with a sort of analogy that would kind of explain it. So imagine this, right? So imagine a factory, a manufacturing factory, and this factory has different departments, right? And for every department, usually you would need like an SOP, which is like a standard operating procedure for. Okay, so for the entire factory itself, there's usually basic guidelines that every department has to follow. So let's say you have the manufacturing department, you have the packaging department, and you have the, let's say, logistics department. Okay, so each department, so there's like a basic guideline for every department to follow. So let's say you gotta wear a uniform, you gotta pay attention to safety, you have to work together, blah blah blah. Teamwork is important. Um, yeah, if you work overtime, you get a raise. If you get good performance, you get a promotion. These are all things that every department can agree on, right? They can follow the same rules. But for every department, there's also separate rules that they have to follow. Called usually they would call it standard operating procedures, right? Because every department, not everything that people do are the same in every department, right? There's different roles, different chores to do, different tasks, and let's take production department for example. In that production department, you have again different SOPs for different sections in that department. So in the packaging department, you probably have like packaging for wet packaging, dry packaging, bottled packaging, and they all have their different SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures. Um, and people need these standard operating procedures because people need specific instructions to follow in order for a whole system to work perfectly well, right? You can't just throw someone in there. And I mean, if you throw a newbie in there, if you have a standard operating procedure there, it's much easier to train them because everyone follows that same standard operating procedure, right? Yeah, so if you go into work every day, you don't have to memorize what you have to do, you just follow the list that is already given to you. Which is why they have this thing called SOP. So I was just thinking, I was just relating this to life because I tend to like to, relate weird analogies to life. Uh, so that, with that being said, you can kind of see life as like the entire factory. And in this life, we have all sorts of basic guidelines that we are being told to follow, right? Um, like, I don't know, the key to success is failure. You have to love other people, you have to love yourself to love other people. You have to be kind, be compassionate, don't kill people, don't steal. These are all things that people already know, right? I mean, not everyone follows them, but just like in a factory, but but they know it exists and they know they have to follow them. Um, so in life, you can think that there's also different departments, right? For example, you can have like Department of Love, Department of Health, and Department of Career. And for each department, we kind of have SOPs in place, if you think about it, by, I don't know, society and the stuff that we read, the stuff that we see on the media. So with health, you gotta follow the food pyramid, you gotta eat healthy food, you gotta eat this kind of diet or that kind of diet, depending on what media you have been exposed to. And with career, you gotta work hard, or some people would have like work hard, play hard kind of SOPs, or you have to kind of climb the corporate ladder and tough it out with your shitty boss if you want to get a high position in the corporate, that kind of thing. And with now, but the thing I want to focus on is the Department of Love, right? Because usually in the department, okay, so in the Department of Love, what I would think the SOPs are that we all can agree on is, um, okay, so in you can think of it as like there's two main sections, right? So there's love yourself and loving others in the love department. And with the loving others section, the SOPs that we all probably, I mean, so the SOPs that we create for ourselves since birth or since we were a kid, for loving others, we probably got that from our parents, right? From observing our parents, um, from observing people around us, from what we see in the movies, from what we hear on the radio, what we hear on in songs, and yeah. So it's like we have a rough idea on what loving others is supposed to look like, and so we follow that guideline, right, on how to love other people. And it could be different for many people because um, by the way we were brought up, by the people that we were surrounded with. If you're surrounded by a good family, you would probably have like a pretty good idea on how to love another person. But yeah, and if let's say you grew up in a really abusive family or someone with a drug problem, then your idea of loving some other person is probably going to be different, right? And with the blah, 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 blah. And with okay, so that's for loving other people. But the thing is, with the loving yourself section, a lot of us, I mean, myself included, right? I realized, actually, yeah, it's really hard for us to form a SOP, standard operating, like really hard. It's really hard for us to form an SOP for ourselves in that section because we can't observe. It's not like our parents are going around saying things like, "Oh, I love myself, or you don't even see actors or people on the screens doing that. So, um, as opposed to saying "I love you," like people don't say "I love myself," right? So it's kind of hard to grasp that concept of loving yourself. I think as a kid, which is why we don't really have even like a rough manual that we all can follow to love ourselves, right? Yeah, which is why I think a lot of us grow up having problems with loving ourselves, even though we're being told to, right? Even though we repeat it to ourselves every day. Like, you need to love yourself, you need to love yourself. We post motivational quotes on our Facebook and our Instagram, telling us we need to love ourselves. But the thing is, we don't have these specific instructions, these SOPs, for us to follow. So it's kind of useless and pointless. So, yeah, um, I guess I could share my rough SOP on how to love myself because I think I've gotten to a point where I'm pretty comfortable with being this form. So, how I came up with my SOP was that I ask myself questions, right? Like, okay, so why don't you love yourself? So how I answer that question was that I think back to people that I don't love. Why don't I love this person? Or why don't I like this person? And it usually came up with answers like, I usually came up with answers like, because I'm not attracted to them physically. They're not good looking enough. Or they take me for granted. Or they used me. Or I feel hurt by something that they did or said, right? And I would try and ask myself that question again. So like, okay, so I don't love myself right now. Why is that? Is it because I don't feel attractive enough to myself? Is it because I am taking myself for granted? Like not taking care of myself? Is it because I'm doing something that I don't like, which is why I'm hurting myself? Yeah, stuff like that. So that was my rough what do you call it, rough draft to creating my SOP. And yeah, I've come up with 3 pretty simple rules to follow or instructions. Taking care of my health, mentally, physically, doing the things that I like, only doing the things that I like, and helping other people. So in that order, right? It has to be in that order. It's pretty simple, actually. Yeah, because I think in life we need to make sure we take care of every department because, like a factory, if one department stalls or doesn't work properly, the rest of the department can't function either. I mean, the whole factory gets stalled, and you won't be able to produce anything. Let's say you mess up. Let's say you mess up logistics. Sure, you can produce a product. Sure, you can package it nicely, but who's going to send them out? Where are you going to get the profits from? Or if you mess up packaging. Sure, you can produce a product, but if you can't package it properly, what's the point? Yeah, so I think it's good to make sure you have a good idea of an SOP for every department in your life. Yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to share for today. If you have a SOP that uh, you would like to share, please feel free to comment. We'd love to see what other people are up to. Yeah, so that's about it. Hope you found this interesting. Yeah, and hope you look forward to the next video. Okay.